Hi everyone. In this CLO video, I'm going to show you how we can use the 3D pen tool on our avatar. So in the video most recently, I showed you how we can use the 3D pen tool for our garments. This is going to work very similar, but we're going to be able to draw on our avatar versus on a garment. So this is located right here in our 3D toolbar. It looks like that dress form with a curvy line on top of it and a pen. And we have our 3D pen tool for the avatar, but then we also have our edit 3D pen tool above it. So to start, we're just going to click on the 3D pen tool, and on my avatar, you see now I have that black dot attached to my mouse, and I can click anywhere on my avatar to start drawing. You can see as I click, it shows me the length of a line. If I were to right And as I click, you can see that it gives me the length of the line or the segment that I'm drawing. I can always do straight lines just like that, and then I can close my shape to finish my line if I wanted to by clicking on the point that I started on. I could also finish my shape by double clicking. That would finish my segment. I'm going to click Command Z to delete both of those. I can also add a curved line, same way that we did in the garment pen tool by holding down Command and clicking and dragging. That gives us that red curve point. I can always add multiple curve points in a row by continuing to hold down Command, but that curve isn't going to be locked in place until I click one more time after my last curve point. Then I'll get another corner point, and I can continue adding more curves if I want, or just doing whatever with my pattern. I double clicked to finish that line. One more thing that you can do here is if you click delete on your keyboard, that's going to take you back 1 point. So if you ever mess up, you can always go back 1 point. If I click Command Z, that's going to delete my whole line. So what I can do with this tool is I can draw something on my avatar that I want to turn into a pattern. So if I hold down my Shift key, I can always get my lock guides on. So I'm going to hold down Shift right there to be able to select the center front and just start drawing kind of like a bodice pattern. I can always rotate as I'm drawing, and then clicking wherever I want to click. You can hold down Shift to get lock guides at any point. That can be helpful. Holding down Command to get that curve point. Sometimes adding a couple curve points in a row. Sometimes holding down the Shift key can be helpful, like on the side seams, or on a shoulder seam, or at the center front or center back. But I'm just going to continue working. You can see holding down Shift right here helps keep my line horizontal, so that's a really helpful lock guide. And I just clicked on that point that I started on, and that closed my shape. So I have this like half bodice up here on the front. So basically once I create with this tool, I can go into the edit or the 3D pen tool, hold that down, and below that you'll see something called flatten. That will allow me to click on any of my closed shapes, and they'll highlight yellow, and then when I hit return or enter on my keyboard, it will draw that pattern in my 2D window also. So now I have it in the 3D window and the 2D window. I can always right click on it and choose clone pattern with linked editing, and then have that full front bodice that is symmetric. And then I could also always go in and add a pattern to the back too. So for example, I'm just going to delete these two pattern pieces really quick and jump back to my front. And jump back to my front and go to my 3D avatar pen tool again. And I'm just going to add a back to what we created right here. So if I rotate around, you'll be able to share the lines that should be shared. So for example, our side seam and our shoulder seam, if I click on an existing point, it's going to recognize that these points are going to be shared. So I'm not going to have to draw that exact same side seam again. It's going to know that I am using that line again. So I can hold down Shift again to get a nice flat line for our back hem. And just kind of click wherever I want, hold down Command to get a curved point. And you'll see when I click on this shared point again, it closes my line. So even though I'm not drawing a completely closed shape in one continuous line right now, it's going to recognize it as a closed shape because it is sharing points with other segments. So again, holding down Command to get that curved line. And closing that shape. For example, if I were to be drawing something right here and I accidentally, say I wanted to create like a diamond shape right here for some reason, if I accidentally closed my shape right there, I could still continue drawing. And then when I go to flatten, it would still recognize it as one closed shape. If I wanted to add in like another seam right here, I could still go in and add something in the middle of that. And so then once I'm done with my whole pattern or what I want to draw, I'll go back to that flatten tool and then click on every closed shape that I want to turn into a pattern. And then I'll click enter or return on my keyboard. And you'll see these pieces are created. Sometimes I'll just need to arrange them a little bit better, like bring our back pieces a little bit closer. But I'm going to delete that triangle or that diamond right there. But you'll notice once I created a pattern or flattened it with those shared seams, it automatically recognized that those were shared and it sewed them together. So you can see those seam lines already existing in my file. So now if I were to select those three, right click and clone pattern, and then just bring these close to where they need to go. I have a full pattern now. I would just need to sew the front and the back together because those weren't sewn together because they weren't already existing when I drew my 3D pin tool on the avatar. So just need to make sure I sew the front and the back center seams, and then I can turn on simulation. And now we have this pattern right here. So you can see this is like really form-fitting. It will definitely work better for certain fabrics than others. And your pattern shape is going to be not as smooth as you would probably want your pattern to be. You can always go in and use the edit pattern tools to go and kind of continue editing those. So you could always right click, delete all curve points if you wanted to straighten out a line, or go in and use the edit curvature or smooth curve points, which I go over in our edit pattern tool video, but you can always go in and continue editing this pattern to make it look however you want. We also have the option to leave these pin lines on our avatar if we want to. You can see they're still there. If you wanted to keep them but you just wanted to hide them, you can always go into the avatar display menu and click show 3D pin. So if you just wanted to hide them, that would turn it on or off. Or if you wanted to delete them, you could go into our edit pin tool for the 3D avatar. And one thing you can do is you can click on a line and click delete on your keyboard if you want to delete it, but you can also edit it too. So if I wanted to click and drag, that would allow me to edit any lines that I wanted. I could also click and delete one segment, or I can double click and that will delete the whole shape. So I can go to the back and double click to delete that whole shape, Or I can also, with that selected, click Command A, and that would select everything, and then I can delete that on my keyboard. So then when I go out of the pen tool, I can turn simulation mode back on, and those lines are gone. So that's basically how you can use the 3D pen tool for the avatar. It's something that could be similar to like draping on a dress form with physical fabric on a physical dress form. And it's something that might be helpful if you're doing something like really form-fitting or really tight fabric, or just to experiment on the dress form. It can be a really fun tool to use, but I hope this was helpful.